All right, what's up? Welcome back to the Burton Score. We're in the Burton Cave again. Um, Here with Ty Easy. I'm T Rav. So we mentioned this. I think it was like episode 1 or 2 that Ty Easy is actually a published author.
Yes.
So
Nobody knows about it though. But,
yeah, it's we're gonna talk about that. So what made you decide to do that?
in the kitchen, it gets more aggressive because you have sex jokes, you have, things on the news, coronavirus, political views, all these things. So I wrote this because there are so many things that go on in a workplace. It doesn't matter what industry it is. And it's like, man, you get home and you drink a beer, you guzzle it. It's like, I can't believe that happened today. I served 400 reservations, or I sold 400 cell phones, or I sold 400 tires at a whatever, and you're just like, man, I'll never forget this.
When you get home, you gotta deprogram when you're dealing with the public.
Yeah, and
So.
everybody has their way of decompressing.
So is this your way of like when you're off work or when you get spare time, this is your way of deprogramming or just calming down, just grab a beer, have a drink, and then like, you know what? I'm gonna put my thoughts on the paper.
Yes. Generally no, because for a person to come home after every night and write a story is very hard. I mean, because after a long day of work, you've already drunk 3 beers or shots, and then you forgot how to write, and next thing you know, you're blacked out. And yeah. So, not every day, but yes, that is basically what I'm saying is. So, at some point, after about a week, you have all these 7 days of hell inside of you. And it's like, alcohol can't fix it, drugs can't fix it. It's like, I've got to get it out. And you can't talk to your mom or your dad or your brother or whatever, because they have their own problems, and it's like, but you got to get it out. And you're not going to go to the bar because then they have their own. So it just you're just typing away and the computer's listening to what you're saying. And you press save and it's there and it's gone. It's there.
Yeah.
And it's like, you feel better. That's why I do it. That.
Yeah,
Right
it's
there.
it's kind of like a stress reliever.
It's the biggest stress reliever on the planet. And there's nobody there to say, you know what, this is wrong. This isn't right.
Right.
But you weren't there. It happened. It's right there. And so it's my way of letting out, hey, guess what? Work isn't always fun. Admit it. Work is not fun. Work is very dangerous, complicated. At any moment, a great day can just turn into a living nightmare.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
And
so the first book, Chef Horror Mini Stories, subheading says contains force-fed duck liver, human torture, and beer by Tyler Burton. So what is the first book about?
First book is about, I was a manager at a restaurant, and it was my first gig of being in management, and it literally, the moment when you realize that I'm going to give you 50 grand. That sounds awesome. 50 grand a year. Wow. No. It's the work, and you don't sleep, you don't eat. All you do is consume alcohol when you're not at work. Sometimes you're at work consuming alcohol. And it's very, I have something you need to do, and I need it done by this time. All right, cool, no problem. Most managers are very like, hey, this is what he done, you do it, it's over with. But then some managers are crazy. they forget what they said, and they said, well, I didn't say that. I said I wanted it blue, but you said you wanted it red. It doesn't matter. Okay, got it, and that was because when you're a regular cook, you can just like, I'm clocking out. Peace. You get out. 50 hours or 40 hours, you're out of there. No, when you're a manager, you are there. You are stuck. You are their property. And that was the progression and when the bomb hit, the rising action, if you will, of being a sous chef. That was what that was about.
So, like, I've read it. I've actually read 2.5 of them. I love this book. Like, he doesn't really give a very good description of it, because that's not what happens in this book. I mean, it kind of does and it kind of doesn't.
Right. Well, in the book, there are different people that I've met and that have done good or bad, and I put them in a storyline with how I feel, and that's they do their own things,
Yeah.
and that's how they connect, which as any story would. But yeah, everybody in that book right there has been in my career.
Yeah. But so like you actually knew the people. Obviously, they're not using their real names and stuff like that.
No
But
real names.
The murder and the other stuff has nothing to do
Well,
with the people that you know.
yeah, I mean no harm on to anybody. It's when you're with somebody and they push you to a point, and you go up to a manager and say, hey, listen, this person offended me.
Yeah.
And they sit you down, and you're by yourself with them in the office or whatever, or you're out in the dining room, there's no one there yet, and you have a conversation about it. And nothing happens. It's like you go back in the kitchen the next day, and it's like, well, we're just doing this all over again, so I'm going to have another meeting with you? What's the point? And so that was my breaking point of like, oh, this is what this is about. Okay. And
All right. Well, that leads us to the second book. So the first book was awesome. It was your first. It was your first.
It was my first attack at writing, and there may or may not be mistakes in it, but that depends on what you think. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't like it. But.
Yeah. This one here is definitely, you can tell that you've grown up a little bit.
Yeah.
Chef War Ministers, Pastry, Bushwhackers, Hot Pockets, and Murder. So this is, it's not really a continuation.
No.
To the second book. It's kind of like a whole nother story, and it's kind of more brutal.
It's a lot more anger. Yeah. A lot more foundation, if you will, with the information that's given. Granted, I'm not an angry person.
No, not by any means.
When you're pressed, when you read the story, you'll get it.
Yeah, so I actually like this one a lot. Like I said, it's not a continuation, but it's kind of like it's kind of similar lines, but like the scenery is different.
Yeah.
There's different people in it. I think there's one or two people that are still in this book that are in that other book. Or am I wrong?
No, completely different cast.
Okay. Yeah.
So this one has 4 women in it. This is the first time I ever worked in a kitchen with all.
That's
women.
right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And the what's crazy is that so they always say, since the beginning of growing up or anything, like, well, women never should leave the kitchen, meaning not a fine dining kitchen, but the home kitchen.
Yeah, it's the old school saying.
And
Women should be in the kitchen.
right, and it switches from like, well, the men are the high and awarding chefs, hardworking. When you see these women, they know how to work, and they just work around me like I'm nothing. And that was another point when I was like, you know what? This is magical, as one of the women does say. And they just, it needs to be written down, recorded, that these women are easily should be awarded Michelin status, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're familiar with, Master Chef, if you believe in that. These women can work, and this is all about them, all dedicated to those people.
And you actually had to like interview women, and you like reach out to women so you'd be able to put in the words, like, I don't know, their experiences or whatever.
Yeah, I talk to them. Anytime if I write about you, I'm gonna ask. I can write Godzilla. It doesn't matter, but I have to ask you, hey, are you okay with me writing about you?
Yeah.
And you can say yes or no. And they're like, and I was like, what are they gonna write about? Well, I'm gonna write about this. This happened. This actually happened. Are you okay with me writing about it? She goes, yeah, but not completely. Or yeah, sure, write the whole thing. And I'm like, all right, I have permission. And so some of it is true, some of it is kind of not true, but it's a windy road when you work with a kitchen with women. That is, it's a ride.
Yeah. But it's all still fiction.
It's all this is fiction.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that happens
Inspiration
in your job that gives you inspiration for this, but obviously,
yeah,
the horror in it is not obviously real.
Right. I would. Yeah.
All right. So the third one, Chef Horror Mini Stories Butcher Edition.
Butcher Edition.
The cover of it's pretty awesome. There's like a knife and blood and a scalp. Looks like.
So I actually asked my manager at the time if I could use the dining room for a murder scene, and he's like, I don't care. I was like, are you sure? He goes, yeah. All right, cool. So I went ahead and threw a chair down. This right here is from a website, but it doesn't matter. I took pomodoro sauce, which is Italian-based marinara, if you will, and did all that, and that's a real knife.
Damn, I thought it was real. You shouldn't have told us that.
It's all good.
And on the back, there's ingredients of hilarious stuff.
Rants.
1 tablespoon of not being a bitch. 2/3 cup antifreeze. 1 new non-broken chair. Let's see what else we got. 12-pack cans of Mountain Light and a bag of Funyuns. Fantastic. So this is actually a lot bigger than the other 2 books. There's a lot in here.
Yeah, there's a lot of information there.
So, quite honestly, I haven't been able to finish it. I'm like not even halfway through. But it's what I read is pretty awesome. But I'm gonna have to start all over and read it from the beginning again, just so I can get the full effect. But
Cool.
Tell us about this one.
I will not give the cliff notes. I'll give you a brief summary.
Yeah, of course.
So, I worked with 2 people. Excuse me. I'm drinking alcohol. I apologize. It's natural. I usually in kitchens, you hear rap music. It's awful. It's just bad. I mean, there are some good rap, all right, but it's like everybody seems to get things faster when they're listening to rap music because it's that beat, and it's about this or that.
Just make my head, man.
Yeah, but this is the first kitchen where I walked into where it was like dance party music. I'm talking like strobe lights, doing Molly, that kind of music. And I'm just like I can't handle it. Can't do it. I'm used to I grew up listening to Leonard Skinner and Arrow, all the classics, and all that stuff. And I was like, I can't. You got to turn this shit down. And he's like, oh, come on. So you put on Pantera, and everybody was like, oh, turn that shit off. It's too loud. I'm like, well, just play regular music,
Mm-hmm.
And so finally,
anything but top 40.
yeah. And so finally, I came in the next day. I was like, all right, play whatever you want. And so he's playing the, and I was like, whatever. And I just start, knife out, cutting basil up, and next thing you know, the beat has the whole kitchen. Everybody just everybody's silent, and everybody just moving. And the prep list is done. And I was like, this works. And it happened the next day. Prep list was done, and I was just feeling the music. I'm not a very spiritual or astrology person, but the music literally took everybody and it calmed the kitchen down to where the prep list was done in like 2 hours, and that's something of a rarity for a big 400-seat restaurant, you know. And so I was like, all right. And so I started listening to it, and I was like, all right, cool. And it took me into another, you know, dimension of beats and artists and countries and stuff like that, like any other genre you get introduced to. But the person that I actually wrote about, he has a relative, or had a relative, in the Civil War. And I didn't know at the time until I was asking about it. I was like, because I was asking, hey, you're the butcher, I'm going to write about it, this about just you, ask information. And I found this flag. It was a Confederate battle flag. It was like a blue or white retro with a circle in it. And I was like, what do you think about this flag? Like, did he ever see this flag in battle? And he looked at me and goes, I have that flag in my drawer. And I was like, you're shitting me. He goes, no, I'll bring it to work tomorrow and show it to you. So at that, and I was like only 30 pages in. I was like, all right, that's it. I'm finishing this book. This is gonna happen. And I just, you know, went nuts. And so it's about how the dance, the music can affect food, how you move in a kitchen, basically. I don't know how to explain it. It tears off, and it has a little history lesson in it, and it's a lot of blood. You just gotta buy it.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah,
but I do like on your on all your books, like you actually can relate to. I said this in I think our first or second episode. Like you can literally relate to everything in these books. Like you're there. Like these are people that you know. Like this is people really do hang out and do stuff like this. There's one in one of the books where they're sitting at a bonfire drinking beer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like this stuff happens. Like the kitchen stuff, that stuff really happens. The music part was my favorite part because through all these books, you have somebody playing some type of music in the car or in the kitchen.
Yeah,
and it's blaring, and it's like somebody's singing along with it. You even typed out like people are singing along with it and stuff like that. It's like the stuff that you say, especially music, because I love, like I'm a big music person too. Like it brings it all together, and I think it's cool how you did that.
Everybody has their own way of getting through the day, and if it was me, it would still have been, what was that? Copperhead Road when I was 17, or Rammstein, Du Hast, from The Matrix or something, But it's like, when you actually just stop and let people in, not sexually, but hear what they have to say or do or whatever. I put up a post on Facebook that my mainly music choice is now UK drum and bass. I would have never thought in my 30 years that I would be doing that in Nashville. So music influences me. Now, I like to bring history into it as well. That's why it's bigger, is because there is a...
you actually did a flashback scene.
Yeah, there's a Native American, back to the Confederate flag. There's a Confederate, when the Confederates came in and ran out the Native Americans, they wiped out everything. And I talked to our buddy. So basically, long story short, I went on a rant, maybe not. These 3 books are my story to tell you about my experiences and how they affected me in the way I tell you how I felt about it. Granted, it's a lot more brutal than you probably expect, but yeah, I think if you have a hard stomach, I think you'll enjoy it. So,
and you're still writing, right?
I'm writing a 4th one right now, but can't talk about that right now. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, I do appreciate you talking about it and giving us your point of view on it, because writers' perspective on what they write, sometimes they don't want to talk about it. Yeah. Sometimes what their meaning behind the books doesn't really go with how the book actually goes.
Right.
Like what I got from the book was totally different than how you explained it.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it a lot. But hearing the way that the reason why you wrote it and the story behind it is really interesting, because I would never guess that by reading.
Right. Because if I like the way I just described how hard it is to work in a kitchen, and if I just wrote that down and published it, I would probably lose my job, go to jail. My life would be over. Granted, the problem would be solved, but, you know, I'm not Batman. You know, I'm not trying to fight crime. So, but if I can tell a story in my way of telling you, hey, this happened, that's worth it to me. And to get money, which is always good. Right.
Which is always good. If you can get money, why not?
Yeah.
Well, I really like all three books, well, especially 2.5, because the third one I haven't finished yet. But like, from what I've read, especially on the first two, like, it's like, why? I mean, there's nothing out there like this. There's no movies or TV shows or anything like this. It's really unique, and it's really relatable too. So, like, me personally, I would love to see like a movie out of both of them, or at least, I mean, even not so much TV shows though, because when they do TV shows, they kind of turn into something that it's not.
Yeah.
I think like the books are long enough to make an actual 1.5-hour movie, maybe 2 hours, and it would come out perfect, and you'd still be like, at the end of it, you'd be like, holy shit, this is crazy, like what just happened, you know. So on the third one, when I finish it, I'll have to give you my review on it. But
Will do.
But I appreciate you taking the time talking about it, because a lot of writers, they don't want to talk about stuff like this.
This is, and you know, it's like, if I was just write about something, like how every day would be in a kitchen, you'd be like, well, you'd be expecting what you'd see on Food Network or, you know, the Cooking Channel. That shit is not real. It's not real. That's staged. 30 minutes to cook a turkey. Win $10,000. You try cooking a turkey in 30 minutes, see how that works out. That shit ain't happening.
Yeah.
You know. So
it's real life experiences for the kitchen.
Yeah. I hope you buy it, enjoy it, and if you're offended, that's your fault.
Also, I'll post the link on how to find it on Amazon. He also has a website as well for Chef Horror Mini Stories, so I'll post that as well on here.